Hey, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing on this fantastic Tuesday? Welcome to Faith and Finance Tuesday. I'm your host, Marvin Adair, and this is Faith and Finance Tuesday, a segment of the core where we built from the inside out. Hey, y'all, I'm glad that y'all are able to join me tonight, and we've been having some great conversation over the last several weeks, and we had some credible guests come on and share their stories, their experiences, and some of the lessons they learned along the way. But again tonight, y'all, it's just me and you. It's me and you. My guest couldn't make it tonight. Something happened, some schedule conflict. So I apologize, but we're going to get this guest list solid real soon here, and so hey, I still got some good stuff for us. I actually think tonight's conversation came at the perfect time because something happened in my own life today that made me stop and think. I'm not going to get all into the details and what happened because the details really aren't important. But what I want to talk about is the lesson that came out of it. So I started my day with a plan. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I knew where I needed to be. I had pretty much mapped out in my mind how my day was supposed to go. But you know what? Let me stop real quick. And just welcome everybody to the chat. Welcome everybody. Before I continue to go on, I just wanted to say, give some shout outs to some people, watching. So, hey, just wanted to say thank you for those who continue to come back and listen and learn. Hopefully you're getting some out of this, right? But let me get back, because like I was saying, my day was mapped out, and then all of a sudden life just happened. Things started changing. All of a sudden my plans that I had at the beginning of the day that I thought was necessary, things weren't going the way I thought it was going to work out. And while I was dealing with what I was going through, I started thinking about something. And I was thinking about, just because the plan changes, right? That doesn't mean that your purpose has to change. Let me say that again. Just because your plan changed doesn't mean that your purpose has to change. And I think that's important because, all of us, we have plans. We have financial plans. We have business plans. Some of us have career plans. And we have plans for our family. You may be one that already got your retirement already planned out for, or you might have your goals planned out for the next 5, next 10, 20 years. But here's the reality. Life doesn't always cooperate with our plans, right? Sometimes something happens that you just don't expect, right? Some expense shows up that wasn't in the budget. Sometimes an opportunity you thought was going to work in your favor, it doesn't. Sometimes somebody you were dependent on, they just can't come through. I've been experiencing that personally myself in the last couple of weeks. And, but things happen. And you can be sitting there thinking, okay, what do I do now? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What do you do when plan changes? And how do you make the adjustment, if it's financially or adjustment? You need to make a mental adjustment. Because what's the name of the show? Faith and Finance. And so, how do you make that adjustment while continuing to trust God and move towards the purpose, right? So, I was just thinking about it, and I came up with a few things, and I jotted it down. Point one that I was thinking about was your plan has to leave room for life to happen. You got to leave room for life to happen. One of the things I'm learning about planning is that, when you create that plan, everything is not going to go exactly the right way. You can sit down, you can figure things out, you can you can say I need to make this much money, or this is going to be my budget. This is what I'm going to save. This is what I'm going to invest. This is what I need to accomplish, and this is you can come up with all this stuff. It looks good on paper, but then the problem comes. Life doesn't sometimes agree with what you got on paper. We can have stuff written down, but life happens in real time. Things can come in and just throw you completely off of your plan. And sometimes something is some things can be going perfectly fine, but that wasn't a part of your plan. It can come in and change it. And like I had some incidents today, and it really made me just start thinking about my day. My day was, that first thought that came to my mind was my day is ruined. My day is thrown off. Because I had my plans. I knew where I needed to go. I knew what I needed to do. Like I said earlier, I had it all mapped out. But then it didn't happen that way. And so you have to start thinking about, I could have forced it to happen. And I think a lot of times that's what a lot of us, we try to do. We try to force things to happen, and we find ourselves getting frustrated. We find ourselves making things worse. Because we're trying to make what we plan for that day actually happen. And sometimes, like I said, life comes in, throws us a curveball, and what I've learned today that you really got to know how to adjust, because unexpected situations can really throw you off. And when I think about planning and stuff like this, it's basically something I wish I would have learned years ago. That life happens. For more than 30 years, I worked in the barber industry, and I knew how to make money. If I needed some additional money, I knew exactly what to do. Just get behind the chair, take another client, or just work another day. Stay a little bit later if I got to. I did that for years, and that worked. But I remember when COVID happened, and all of a sudden, it didn't matter whether I was willing to work or not. The reality was I couldn't stand behind the chair. It didn't make a difference on how many clients wanted me to cut their hair. My circumstances weren't gonna let me cut their hair. It was outside of my control. And that's when I really realized being able to make money and being financially prepared are totally two different things. That's one of the reasons why we do need savings. That's another reason why we need emergency funds, and why we need some protection in place. That's why we need to think upon beyond our right now money or paychecks. Because life can happen. And so we need to make sure that we are prepared for, like I said, throughout this, every time I'm on here, the what else. What if this happened, or what if that happened? So one of our goals should be is to build up enough margin into our lives that even when the unexpected does automatically become it happen, it doesn't become a crisis. And I want you to think about that for a minute, because something can happen that may be an inconvenience, but if you built up enough margin, that inconvenience it won't hurt you. Sometimes when something happens that exposes a weakness in our plan, we get frustrated. We get frustrated at ourselves. But a lot of times that exposure is good, because that should help us strengthen that where it was weak at, where it was weak at. So we got to learn how to come up with a plan not by beating up ourselves, or you got to learn how to learn from it. You got to ask yourself questions. What did this situation teach me? Did you learn anything out of it? Or are you allowing the same thing continue to happen to you over and over and over again? You in our journey in life, we're trying to get better. Each and every day we should be trying to get better. And here's one thing that I want to say, that when life does happen, don't let that just totally throw you off. Don't let it mess you up. Don't let it deviate you from your purpose, right? So you want to continue to make sure that you can do what you're supposed to do. Like I said, you might have to make some adjustments. Adjustments are okay as long as they still goes with the purpose. Like today, again, I had my whole day planned out. I knew how many places I was going to go, how many people I was going to see. But the things happened today that it caused things to change. It was out of my control. I couldn't do anything about it. And for a minute, I started to get a little bit upset, or start talking negative. But I quickly caught myself, and I had to make adjustments. So sometimes you have to make adjustments in life, but don't let that adjustment, or don't let whatever threw you off to have to make that adjustment. Don't let that dictate to you that you have messed up the plan. Just adjust. Make sure that you accomplish something, some of your goals. Like if your goal was to put up $100 a week, and something happened where you had to go in and spend more money than you really was expecting to spend, that's okay. If you don't get to put that $100 up that week, put up 25, maybe it's 10. As long as you're doing something to still go towards the goal or the purpose that you have in your life. Another thing that I was thinking about today, as I was sitting there, and I'm going to get into telling y'all where all this came from as I go on. But don't make a permanent decision because of a temporary situation. A lot of us, we make decisions based off a situation, and the decision we make is sometimes a permanent one. And so I want you to listen to this because it's important, because when something unexpected happens, one of the first things that usually shows up is, guess what, is your emotions. Remember I said that. I felt myself getting frustrated. I felt myself starting to worry, and I wasn't getting angry, but those type of emotions can come up. Fear can come up. Or here's one that I deal with is I have to fit right now. That's one of the things that I'm guilty of. And something happens, and immediately in my mind it starts working. Okay, can I do this? Can I move this? Can I change this? Maybe I need to stop this, or maybe I need to start doing this. And before long, I'm trying to make 5 decisions about something that happened, 20 minutes ago. But here's what I've learned, that everything doesn't require me to give it immediate reaction. Put it that way. Sometimes before you make a decision, here's one of the things that I've been really learning. Make sure that you get clarity. Make sure that you take time out to think about it or talk about it. Because I said you get clarity, and clarity builds confidence. And then you can create a plan. And there's a reason why you want to get clarity first. Because before you start changing everything, you need to understand what's actually are you dealing with. You really want to begin to know what happened and how serious is this right now. What information am I missing? You got to start asking yourself questions like, what options are available to me? A lot of times we just start reacting, and we're not asking ourselves these questions so we can make the right decision. We panic, and we make basically bad decisions because we're in panic mode. But we need to ask ourselves, what do I need to do? What needs to happen today? And what can wait till tomorrow or the day after that? you know, because sometimes you that situation or the yeah, your situation sometimes can feel bigger than it really is because we're reacting to our emotions rather than responding to facts. You know, it can make you deal with your money situation emotionally. You know, and that emotional decision can become an expensive one. You know, when you in fear, fear can make you borrow money that you know you really shouldn't be borrowing. It got high interest. It you know it's gonna take you a long time to pay it back, or maybe you know you're not even in the right position to pay it back. You know, frustration can make you sell something. You know that you really holding on to, you really don't want to sell, and you know that's because that's pressure. You know, pressure it makes you do some things sometimes that you don't really want to do. And when you up under pressure, what we have to learn how to do is really just take a seat back and see if this really worth me changing today. Do I really need to sell this possession? You know, sometimes you can sell some things, and you know, let me tell you this story. I remember this was a few years ago, and I was watching a guy, and you know, he got to me emotionally, and he was all like, "Hey, you know, you guys, if you really want to do so and so, you go out and make it happen. You go out there and sell things that you know just to get the money to you know to do this, because this is going to be the best investment of your life and this and that." And yeah, he touched my emotion, right? And I felt what he said. And guess what? I went out there. I think I sold. I can't remember exactly what I sold, but I sold something that probably I wish I wouldn't have sold because I ended up going right back out and rebuying it again. You know, so sometimes you don't let your emotions just dictate to you. You know, because it will. Desperation comes, and you know you be trying to solve a problem in 20 minutes that actually it doesn't. It just needs some time. You know, you need some time to think. You need some time to get a clear head. You need some time to look at your options. You need a time to, you know, I'm gonna say sit back and hear God. You know, because you could be making a problem way bigger than what the problem really is. You know, so you want to be able to make the wisest decision, and sometimes being up under pressure or up under stress, or when life happens, is not the time to make a financial decision. You know, just know you don't have to make a decision, and when you think sometimes you have to make a decision, you know sometimes you do, but get the information first. You know, again, understand your options, pray about it. You know, go out and talk to somebody who has knowledge in that area if you need to. Then make the decision from a position of clarity instead of a position of panic. You know, because I don't want to make a decision on Tuesday that I'm still paying for three years from now, simply because I was emotional. You know, I was emotional when I made that decision. You know, so remember this: before you react to the problem, understand the problem. You know, get some clarity, and once you have clarity, now you can start looking at what resources you have available. You know, what resources you have available. So I started thinking about that, and then you know, my mind going. I'm learning my lessons. So I wrote this down. Sometimes what you need is already in your hand. You know, it's already in your hand. You know, but let me back up before I go into that, because today you know, like I said, I left the house with my plan, and I had to go several places today. I got to my first destination, and when I was headed to my first destination, I heard something in the car. It didn't sound right. You know, the wheels were sounding funny. Didn't pay no attention to it. You know, what I did pay attention to it is just I looked out, looked at my tires, everything was fine. After that meeting was over, got into the car, and I proceeded to drive off. And when I got started driving, I started hearing that sound again, and then my tire light came on. So I pulled over, and guess what? I was on the flat. And I was like, okay. Now again, I'm ready to start thinking negative because sometimes that's what we do. That's the first thing that comes to our mind. We say that stuff, boy, if it ain't one thing, it's something else. It's always something. Every time I take 5 steps forward or 2 steps forward, I take 5 steps back. Our mind starts trying to bring out all this negative stuff. So what I did, I pulled over and I had to sit for a second, and I had to think. Do I want to sit here and call AAA or somebody to come and change this tire, or do I want to, find out where some tire shops is, because maybe it's a tire shop right around where I was at. And so I chose to go with the latter, found me a tire shop, got to the tire shop, and the guy was all like, we're busy, we're not going to be able to get you in today. You're going to have to, if you can't get somebody to come and pick you up and this and that, went on and so forth and so forth. And I was like, you know what? In my mind, I'm saying, you know what? I'm not even finna stress about none of this. I'm give it all over to God. I'm give it to God. And so he asked me, he said, do you got somebody to pick you up? I could have called somebody, but I'm like, no, not really, man. I just have to call the Uber. I was on my way to my second meeting, and then this happened. And he went, let me go out here and check your car. He went out and checked the car. He said, man, you really need 4 tires. And I knew that I was going to need some tires soon, but I wasn't ready for the financial, to pay for the tires. Anyway, make a long story short, he got my car fixed. I was only there. I only lost about an hour and a half of time, 2 hours at the most of time. I saved. I walked in that shop on the day that they was giving their tires back at the same price they paid for them. So I'm saying this because I could have went in panic mode. I could have been calling the tow truck, and they could have took my car over to somebody else that probably would have charged me, $500, more dollars than what I paid for. I could have really been out of the day because I would have had to wait 2 hours or 3 hours for the tow truck. Y'all know how these tow trucks get. Sometimes they get there fast, sometimes they don't. But because I took that time to get clarity and to understand what was really, just look at my situation and not get in panic mode. What am I going to do? I felt that I made a good decision. Not because it was an emotional decision, but because it was a decision that I looked at the facts and I looked at my options, right? So now let me talk about this next thing. Use what's already in your hand, right? This is one of the lessons that I've learned, and it really, hit me, because there was times that I needed money, and I'm quite sure there's times where we all need some money, additional money, when something not working according to our plan, was one of the first things that we start doing. We start looking outside ourselves. Where can I make some more money? What else can I do? What new opportunity can I go out here and find? What new skill can I go and learn? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with learning more or learning something new. There's nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with pursuing opportunities or another opportunity or getting licenses or certificates or developing another stream of income, But the thing that here's one of the things that I want us to really pay attention to. Sometimes before you start looking elsewhere, ask yourself this question. What do I already have? What have God already given you? Or you asking yourself, what have God already given me? What do I already know how to do? Or what experiences have I accumulated over the years? Ask yourself, what ability do you have that you're really not appreciating because it comes to you naturally? And I don't know who's listening tonight. Maybe you want to say I'm too old. I want to say that age don't have anything to do with it. I really believe age don't have nothing to do with it. I was just watching, I forgot. I think her name was Robbie, the lady that got the soul food. I forgot. You guys know who I'm talking about. If you know who I'm talking about, put it in the chat. But she had the soul food restaurant, and it got really famous, and Oprah Winfrey, picked her up, and she was a backup singer for Tina Turner and stuff like that. I was looking at her today, or not today, but the other day. She came on the news, and she's like 80-some years old, and she wrote an album, or she wrote a song, and she's coming out with her own album at 80 years old. And when she was talking, she said, I want to accomplish what God has given me, or I want to be able to accomplish my dreams and my goals. So she's 80 years old, and she has a talent. She still know how to cook good, so she's getting ready to open her restaurants back up. She produced that, or she wrote. She's singing, got her own album release coming out. And she's not letting age determine to her what she can and cannot do. And I just wanted to share that with you because sometimes many of us, thank you, Brother A.T., he said her name is Robbie Montgomery. What was the name of the restaurant? Miss Robbie. Yeah, somebody said Miss Robbie. But what was the name of the restaurant? I can't think of it. But anyway, my whole point is that she coming out, right? And you got to stop saying what you can't do because you feel you have some limitations, and a lot of people put age on it. But I believe all of us, we all have something. Somebody watching tonight, you might be the one that can bake a cake extremely well. Everybody in your family knows it. You're the one that when there's a party coming up, everybody want you to bake a cake, bake birthday cakes and whatever it may be. And, you're not paying attention to that because it comes to you naturally. But maybe you need to look at that thing like, here's something that God has given me that I can use to create value in my own life right now. Yeah, sweetie pies. Thank y'all. Sweetie pies. But what is it that you can do? Some of y'all might be really, really good with children. Kids love being around you. Your parents trust you. You know how to teach. You know how to you have that natural nurturing ability. You know how to create an environment where children feel safe. I'm not telling you to open up a daycare no more, but that might be something that you can do. We all have something that we can do to generate some money. And a lot of times we don't go. I don't think that we give it what we have, what our gifts and our talents. We don't give it enough thought because we're looking for how can I make some money. You got to learn how to take an inventory of what you already got, what you can already produce. And when I started thinking about that, because this is faith and finance, the first thing that came to my mind was Moses. You remember what did God tell Moses? What do you have in your hand? In Exodus, I think it was chapter 3, when God appeared to Moses in the burning bush. God told Moses, he said, you seen the afflictions of the Egyptians that your people go on. You heard their cries. God said, I want you to go out there and I want you to deliver them. Moses didn't immediately do anything but make excuses. He had questions, he had concerns. He was trying to back his way up out of it, say he didn't have this and he didn't have that. But what did God say to him? He said, Moses, what do you have in your hand? Because that thing that you have possession of is going to be the thing that I'm going to allow you to use to deliver the people. Right? I started thinking about the woman that her husband passed away. And her husband had passed away and she left her in debt. She ain't have no, creditors probably calling her. Y'all can imagine. Y'all know how creditors are right now. Boy, a creditor call you up on the phone and can get you stressed out sometimes. They call you up on the phone, make you not answer the phone. You know who it is, but because they pressuring you, right? So she was probably up under all type of pressure. I can only imagine what she was probably going up under, thinking she about to lose her house. They finna come and do this, take her kids, make her kids work, put her kids in slavery, whatever it may be. And she went to the man of God, and the man of God told her what? What do you have in your house? That was the question he asked her. What do you have that you currently possess right now? Because whatever that talent is, whatever you have in your house, that's the thing that we're going to use to make you some money. And what she said the only thing I got is some oil, a jar of oil. And Elisha said, perfect. That's all we need. Now you go out there and you borrow as many jars as you can, because we're going to use exactly what you got. And here's my thing, and here's one of the reasons why I'm telling y'all this. Because I realized something, as I'm building up my practice and stuff like that. There was a point in my practice, y'all, where I was just focused on my practice. And the only thing I kept saying, okay, my practice, I'm putting all the pressure on what I'm trying to build. And as I'm looking at what I'm trying to build, I started finding myself getting further and further behind on some things. And I remember it almost like God told me this too. He's like, use what you got. Why are you not utilizing what you have to help you sustain today and let your practice work on your practice to build your future? And it hit me, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, but how many of us, we allow ourselves to get into some type of financial situation, or we limit ourselves because we're looking outside of ourselves. We're looking at other opportunities or new ideas or whatever it is, and we're not paying attention to what we have. I started off saying that I've been in the barber industry for over 30 years. And, you don't survive in the industry for over 30 years if you don't have no skills. And that's a skill that I had to learn that it was one time where I was, didn't want to do it or whatever like that. But when God gives us skills, we have to learn to embrace our skills, love our skills, use our skills to 100% to the best of your ability. And let God do what God's going to do with that ability. Go out there and take what you have and use it to make some money. God, you may be the one that can detail the car better than anybody else. You get out there and you wash your car, and you wash your mama car, your daddy car, whatever. And people think and swear up and down you done took it to Jack Smith's or somebody's car detail place. You can be sitting on some money. You might be the one that can go out there and you can edge your grass and make it look like some professionals been over there. You can take what you have and you can start going out there and you can grow your business. You can expand your business. And that's what you have to do. You don't have to put all the pressure on one thing. Like I said, I got my practice that I'm believing that I know is going to be, it's a long run practice, is something that I know I have to stay with, because they already told us that we have a high turnover because people can't stay. They can't stay in that position long enough to let the money come. That's where I come up with that saying, run the system long enough for the harvest to show up. You got to be able to sustain and stay there for a while. But what happened is we're putting pressure on just that one thing to bring in the money that we can see that it can bring in, and we put all our chips in that one basket. And we're waiting for that one thing to happen, and kept saying to ourselves, man, once this break, I'm going to be okay. Once this pop, man, I'm going to be all right. I know it's going to work. But while you knowing it's going to work, you're steady getting behind on other things. So use what you got. Use what you got to be the bridge into what you believing for and come to pass. And that's what I had to learn about barbering. Why are you not cutting? Why are you not opening up yourself to make the money that you know you can make, to sustain your lifestyle until your practice get to where you want it to go, to where it can to manage your lifestyle. And now barbering just becomes a hobby, or it becomes something that I just love to do. I don't need it for the to pay bills or whatever like that. But there's many things that I'm telling you, everybody on here, everybody that's going to watch this, everybody that's going to listen to this, you have a talent, you have a skill that you're sleeping on. You don't always have to go to a job and work 5 to 9. You got something that somebody needs right now. Somebody's waiting on you to bring what you have to the front so that they can buy it. It might be counseling. You might be one that can just give out some great advice. Don't you know people are paying for advice right now? People are paying for people to teach them, to show them whatever. You may not want to go back out there and do that, but maybe you are a great teacher, or because you got this skill in that you can teach somebody else, and they'll pay you for that. But we dismiss what we have, and that's where a lot of times I'm telling you, we got to start looking at what you have in your possession. What skills do you have? What can you do? And you go out and you come up with your plan. You see what's need to be done, and you work it. You work it. I started realizing that, and I started Ubering for a little bit because I needed to make some ends before. And, I started cutting hair when I needed to make some money. I started looking at everything that God gave me to do. How can I generate some money to take care of what I need to take care of until my practice get to where I need it to get to? And that's what we all need to do. If you trying to do something, like I said, I don't know how many people trying to be entrepreneurs listening, but if you have you want to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to just dump everything into that to where you broke. Now I know there are some stories where some people went all out. Steve Harvey, we hear people like that. He was like, man, this is the only thing I wanted to do, and but he went homeless. You hear some preachers and they tell you how they knew that's what God called them to do, and they didn't do anything else. But there are ways that you can wait on your dreams to come to pass, and you can get to, supplement until that dream come to pass. I know God said that your gift will make room for you. And I believe that if you have a talent, then it's going to make the room for you, and it's going to bring you to the people that you need to see. It's going to bring the wealth. It's going to bring the riches. It's going to bring everything that you need. But I'm just saying right now, you don't have to, I don't think you have to go broke. I don't think that you have to lose your house, your car. I don't think that you got to not be able to eat because you're trying to accomplish a dream. If you can find something else to supplement until you get to where you need to go, I don't see nothing wrong with it. I don't see nothing wrong with it. So, if y'all got any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask the questions and comments, But I tell you what, being a barber, you learn a lot of things. You learn skills. Some people know how to do nails good. Some people know how to do eyelashes. Some of the things that we're doing in the industry right now, I would have never thought people would be paying the money that they're paying for it. But they are. I was just having a conversation earlier today with another barber, and he's been barbering for over 20-some years. And we was talking about how back in the 90s, where we was only charging $15 and, you know, $20 for haircuts. Well, back then we was probably charging 10 and 15 in the 90s. And we was doing really, really good. But when you look at in the industry now, barbers charging $35, $50, and let's not start talking about beauticians. Beauticians, they charging $150, $200. Some of them out here charging $300 just for color. And guess what? They getting it. You know, so the industry has changed. But we was talking about it, and I was like, man, if you do what you're supposed to do in the industry right now, you can make enough money to retire on in the barber industry. I'm switching over, but there's a guy that got a soul food restaurant, and I remember going into his restaurant, and we was talking about the food and how good the food was. I was like, man, you need to go full time. You need to go full time. Somebody said now they $80. What, a haircut for $80? I wouldn't doubt it. But I was telling him, I like, man, you need to go full time and open up 5-6 days a week so everybody can get to eating your food. The thing came out of his mouth. He's like, man, he said, you know what? I love cooking. You know, but I got a stable job, man. I'm happy with my job. He said, I just use this for supplement income. He ended up buying a building. But I was just talking to him the other day. He got one building. Now he's buying another building. He just bought a food truck, you know. But we was talking. He said, man, I'm just doing it little bit by little bit. You know, I'm not finna throw all my, you know, I'm not finna just throw everything over here and just hope that this works. You know, I'm planning it. And I said, you're doing it right. Because that's what I had to learn. You don't have to, you know, you get a great idea. You don't just have to do everything. You know, you don't just have to say, oh, man, I'm finna go after that idea right now because it sounds good. Or that's what I'm going to do. You don't have to do it like that. You just can plan. You can make, you know, like I said, get your protection together. And, you know, get your emergency funds together. Get your savings together. You know, even when your business is, if you got an idea, start off slow. Start off slow. You know, I go to the barbershop on Thursdays and Saturdays now. You know, and I'm thinking about adding another day. I don't know yet. But I don't have to dive into it. I just needed to build that bridge, be that bridge until I get to where my practice want to be. And then maybe I decide even when I get to my practice where I want it to be. I still cut Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. It'll be my choice, right? So let me move on. I want to say this, that changing the strategy doesn't mean that you're abandoning your mission. There's nothing wrong with changing strategies. You know, something I really had to begin to understand, because sometimes the plan has to change. And when plan has to change, you got to learn how to say it's okay. You know, and I think some of us, we struggle with that because once we decide on how something is supposed to happen, we become so attached to it, to that method, that we can't see that we need to make a change to make something maybe a little bit better, make it a little easier. You know, and we can't see change to say, or we don't see that, you know, well, maybe I need to adjust so that I can accomplish what I need to accomplish. But sometimes we get too locked in on something. You know, and somewhere along the way, you know, that the method then became more important than the mission. You know, and your method on how you're doing something it ain't about reaching that goal no more. It's about, I got to do it this way. But what do you do when the methods don't work? You got to start asking yourself. You got to start coming up with, new ideas. You know, but when we so die hard with the method, a lot of times we start, and that method's not working, we'll start saying, what was I supposed to do this? You know, or maybe I missed God. Maybe my goals were wrong. And you start thinking about you should quit. Quit on the mission and quit on what you're trying to accomplish because the method that you was using wasn't working. You know, in my industry, I've been in my industry for going on 3 years now. And what I've learned is that I got to learn how to adjust. I come up with a plan. I go out there and I work the plan and I take data. We talked about this before, tracking. You know, just don't go out there and start doing something and say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing today. Now start tracking your results. You know, start paying attention. Is this what I'm doing? Is it creating value? Is it worth it? Am I making the money that I need to make? You know, one of the things that I did when I kind of go out, if I go out and Uber, one thing that I do, I track how many miles I drove. I track how much gas I spent because the app may say you made $100, but how much did you spend in gas? How far did you have to drive? Because once you start looking at all those realities, you might start saying, wait a minute, that really wasn't worth what I did for it, you know? And, you know, I kind of went out and I just wanted to drive. And I was just telling my buddy, Pastor A.T., I was telling him, man, I went out and drive. And I said, dude, do they do surges anymore? You know, because I ain't been out so long. And then I was looking, I'm like, man, they trying to give me $4.50 to drive 10 minutes to pick somebody up and drop them off 20 minutes. See, that when you start looking at things, you ain't just pressing button trying to chase a dollar sign. You looking at things and you starting to say, wait a minute, is this really adding up? Because just maybe, instead of chasing that, you can be accomplishing your goals. You can be reevaluating and doing something else that you need to do to make your life easier, to make your life better, to make money come your way. You know? But you want to start tracking. You want to be able to see where you're going, what you got to do. You know? I think about, you know, like a GPS sometimes. Your GPS tell you to go somewhere, and sometimes you find yourself arguing with the GPS because you don't want to go that way. You know a better way. And like I said, I'm going back to just thinking about Uber. Man, there's been some Uber rides. I done looked at the GPS, and the GPS took me this way. And when I got to my destination, I'd be like, man, if I would have just known where I was coming, I would have did that. I would have went over here. I would have came down that street. You know? But we can't get so die hard on our methods is basically what I'm saying. You can't get, you know, that this is what I got to do, because you really don't just have to do that. You know, it's that same thing I think people always said about the man that was on the island believing God to rescue him, and God sent a boat, God sent him a helicopter, and you know, and the man ended up saying something about, you know, I don't forget how the whole story went, but something happened. And then he was like, God, why didn't you rescue me? And God was like, I did. I sent you the boat. I sent the helicopter, you know, whatever else he sent. And I was trying to get, you know, so I sent you what you needed. But the man was so stuck on how he thought God should have delivered him or saved him that he didn't get saved. And I think sometimes that's what happened with a lot of us when we start trying to reach our goals, right? We stuck on the method on how we think we supposed to do it. Again, on in this journey in my practice right now, and man, I done changed my method on what I do about 3 or 4 times because I took data and I track. You know, who's receiving this, who's doing this, or who's responding to what I'm saying. Is this flyer working? Is this approach working? You know, am I getting the desired results that I'm looking for out of this? You know, um, like I said, if I decide to go back and cut hair, I don't know how long I cut, but I have to track some things. You know, I got to come with some hardcore rules on what I'm do, what I'm not gonna do, and that's what you have to do. You know, but understand that methods changes. That don't mean that your goal has to change or your purpose has to change. But the way you thought you were going to get there or accomplish it, it might have to change. And changing your strategy doesn't mean that you failed. You know, it doesn't mean that you failed. Changing your strategy sometimes just it's evidence of you growing. You know, because you have more information. You know, you got different information that you didn't have before. You experience something that you may never experience. So you understand things a little differently. You know, and you understand why you shouldn't continue to do the same thing. You know, and here's something else that I want to talk to you about, and I didn't put this down, but just getting out your own way. You know, getting out that part of you where you don't feel like doing something today. You know, that's that emotional part where it comes in and you saying to yourself that because of this is not right or this is not right, I don't want to do what I'm supposed to do. Every day you have to get up and you got to do something. It may not be a perfect day. You know, you may not accomplish everything that you wanted to accomplish that day. You know, tomorrow you might not feel like getting up and going to accomplish your goals. You may not feel like saving. You may not feel like investing or learning something new. But what you have to do, you got to make sure that you do it because why? It's necessary. You got to do something. You got to do something. You know, the people who don't make it is the people that don't do anything. The people who don't do anything. You know, you got to get to that plan. Hey, man, when the plan changes, I'm gonna do something. And a lot of times we are in our own way, and we got to get out of our own way. You know, you got to be able to learn how to create a new plan when the old plan get messed up. You know, when things are not going the way you want it to go. You got to be able to change. You got to be able to move out of your own way again. I don't care if y'all didn't hear nothing else today. Hear that. That you have to be able to get out the way. Even when it comes to, I know y'all probably like, what did this have to do with faith and finances? It has everything to do with faith and finances. Because when you are in the way, not only can you mess up your faith, but you can mess up your finances, you can mess up your marriage, you can mess up relationships, you can mess up business deals. You know, because you have things that you think should happen, or your emotions is telling you what should happen. You know, it may not be going the way you want it to go, and now you're in panic mode, or life then came in and changed. You know? So you got to be able to get out your own way. So I want to close with this. You know, tonight, it was not what I planned. I had planned my whole day. Like I said, I went through my day that I knew I was supposed to have a guest. I was excited about my guest. I had my questions going. Everything was going to happen. And then life happened. Things started happening. You know? And what did I have to do? I had to readjust. I had to say, okay, my guest is not coming. And y'all want to know what first came to my mind? Oh well, since your guest is not coming, don't have faith and finance, right? That's not an option. That's not an option. Regardless on if plans change. Guess what Marwin had to do? He had to readjust. You know? And when it comes to your faith, you have to, that's what faith is all about. You got to get in there and you got to do what you know God is calling you to do. You know, trust God enough to adjust when the plan changes. Trust him enough to adjust when the plan changes. You know, have enough faith in God when your circumstances changes. When things are not going right the way you think they should go. You got to trust him enough to keep walking. Right? You got to trust God enough. So I hope y'all enjoyed this conversation tonight. Let me go ahead and do my closing. Put my QR code up there. You know, but maybe you watching tonight and maybe you guys you in the middle of a change right now. Something didn't happen the way you expected to happen. And maybe you're trying to figure out what's your next move. Maybe it could be a financial move or whatever. And if that's you, I want you to remember 3 things. Get clarity, build confidence, and create a plan. Right? Don't panic. Don't assume everything is over because something changed. Just take inventory. You know, get clarity, build confidence, and come up with a plan. You know, figure out what your next move is. Right? So listen, here's what I do all the time. Let me set this up a little bit. I give everybody, you know, I'm really talking about faith and finances. And so I want to throw my QR code up here. All right. You know, y'all can just see my QR code on the screen. You can simply scan the QR code if you want to get your complimentary financial checkup. What we'll do is sit down one-on-one. We'll talk about your goals, answer your questions, and we'll start looking at what makes sense for you and your family, right? There's no pressure. And like I tell people, everything starts, guess what, with a conversation. You know, everything starts with a conversation. You know, and also don't forget to like and subscribe, you know, to the Core and Faith Finance Tuesday. You know, the more people subscribe, the more to help build the page to help me achieve the purpose that God has given me, so I can help people get clarity and build confidence and come up with a plan. You know, but y'all keep moving, keep trusting God. Just keep believing God, you know, and keep doing what you're doing. Work your plan. You know, when things come in your life, work your plan, adapt, adjust, make the necessary changes that you need to make, and come up with a plan. So hopefully next week, y'all, I'm going to be back here next Tuesday, and hopefully my guest will be able to come up with me. I got a weeks of guests. I could have called one of my guests up and said, hey, I need to bring you up. But you know what? I said, no, I got my schedule. And, you know, I'm not finna go in panic mode and, you know, trying to find somebody and we ain't got our conversations together and we ain't talking and this and that. I said, no, I'm adjust. I'm gonna adjust. So again, if y'all want to connect with me, that's how you connect with me. That goes to my Candly, and you can go ahead and you can scan the QR code and get your free complimentary financial checkup. But if you never check up, you never do a checkup, you never know what's wrong, right? All right, y'all. So I'll see y'all next Tuesday, and God bless you. And thank you all for being with me and sitting here. God bless you.